Hello, Marcus. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm very well, Sam. How are you?
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Dedicated to the show, as video listeners can see, I'm in a park trying to keep cool, but still here recording for you for the
Yeah, you're in Holland, you said.
Netherlands, picking up
The
my
Netherlands.
on the way back to the
Nice. And
uh,
it looks equally as hot there as it does
uh,
here.
yes, very very similar.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so Marcus, I think you're going to be talking to us today, aren't you? What are you going to be talking about today?
I'm going to dive into the technical side of Flash. So a little bit of numbers and physics and that kind of thing. So I'm going to, this is probably aimed at more intermediate advanced Flash users.
Okay, and I'll run my physics mind over the numbers for
That's
you.
what I
You'll be really
thought.
pleased with
Yeah.
that. And then you've got a webinar coming up in Flash as well, haven't you? That's
I
kind of
have,
related.
yeah, that's right. That's coming up on July the 6th. That's coming up. You can sign up. There's going to be a little voice promo coming up during the show about when it is. But that will be covering more basic Flash. In fact, on that webinar, I'm going to be covering the 6 principles of Flash. I've distilled
Okay,
everything I know about Flash into 6 sentences, Sam.
cool. And then how do people sign up?
Yeah, the name is marcusarmad.com/flash hyphen
Perfect,
fundamentals.
excellent. So
Wow, we
that's
got there
it.
in the
Let's
end.
start with
I have to
that's
apologize.
right.
The heat is getting to me. The heat is getting
The
to me a
heat
bit,
is
Sam. There, I
on.
must admit.
So Marcus, tell us about in this lack of light environment we have right now. Do tell us about Flash.
That's appropriate. Yeah, so this is going to be called "What's the What Got to Do with It?" So I've sort of got a double pun going there, if you might recognise. So, what's the what? So, what is a what? First of all, then this says you see this on the side of some flash units, WPS or watt seconds, and it's basically, as you well know. So, actually, I'm going to hand this first question over to you because you probably know it better than
Well,
me.
watts is a unit of power, and power is just energy used per
Yes,
second. So it's how much energy have you got, and you can use it per second.
exactly. Exactly, which is different to how some flash guns measure it. Some flash guns, mainly speed lights, measure it as a guide number, and that's how much the actual light
Okay.
comes out of the flash, as opposed to the
Yeah.
wattage. So different flashes, they range roughly. Like for a speed light, might be 100 watts, for example, but it can go up to a studio light. Could be something in the region of 3,000, 4,000
Well, you could be
watts per
cooking someone under
second.
that.
You could, and there's a reason for that, Sam. And this is we're going to dive into first. The first reason is when you put a modifier on a light, you're going to lose power. Some modifiers more than others, like a beauty disc, for example, which is like a silver line beauty disc, is going to be quite a hard reflective surface. You're not going to lose too much
Yeah.
power. But a massive 6-foot octabox, double line, double diffused, with the flash pointing not straight out, but into the actual brolly, you're going to lose maybe half the power that, I'm
Yeah.
guesstimating here,
But
but
you're
you're
going to
going to
lose a
lose a lot
lot.
of power.
The more stuff you put in front of the flash, the more you're going to lose light, aren't you?
Exactly. If you're bouncing a flash, you're going to be a losing light of bounce. And what mean by bouncing is off a ceiling or of through a scrim or off a bounce board or something like that. And there you're going to maybe losing 1 or 2 stops of light as well. So you can soon chip away to those figures. And if you're using like a 100 watt flash gun bounced off a ceiling, and you've got it at 1-to-1 power, i.e. full power, it's going to take ages for that flash to recycle. And when I mean ages, it could be between 2 and 5 seconds, which is
I
not
guess
a
it
lot.
depends
But
what
in
you're
the
doing,
world
is
of
whether that's
photography, it's a lot.
ages, doesn't it? If
Yeah,
you're doing something
exactly.
like an event, there could be you need to bang bang, but
Oh,
you
yeah.
could be doing something that's quite slow, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, again, when back in the studio shooting fashion, it's all bang, bang, bang. Really, really, I thought, you fire very quickly. Every frame with a good model, every frame is
Yeah.
different. So you don't want to be lagged behind by this recycling time. So the way around it is by going for a higher wattage unit in the first place.
Of flash or of battery
So
or both.
Well, the flash unit. You want a higher, that's where the 2000, well, sorry, let's just say the 800 watts per second up to the 2000, 3000 start to come in. Because what it means, you've got a lot of headway there and you can shoot at maybe quarter power,
Oh, okay.
which
So
I
then if
tend
you're
to do.
shorting at quarter power, the batteries it come with will have no problem keeping up because they're designed to cope with the full flash.
Exactly. So you might think, what's the point of paying for the extra? But as soon as you get that and you start using it, you're going to think, oh, why didn't I just go for those maximum watts? So that's a really
Okay.
a good way of thinking about it, recycling
And
time.
then, sorry,
Now,
quick question.
obviously,
So if do you get a
yes,
choice of battery with flash? So could you get like a lower power flash with a higher power battery so it has a shorter recycling time? Or do they tend to just come together?
that now you can get different powered batteries. The watts milliamp, isn't it? That it will give you more, will hold the power better. That is a very technical question, Sam. I don't know about
Okay.
batteries. Let's just say I don't
Okay.
think
So
so.
basically you buy
I
it
don't
as
think
a
so.
other thing and the flash comes with a battery.
Yeah, you can't replace the batteries on
Okay.
flashes anyhow. They're great big. They're really heavy units, and I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that
Okay.
in a minute. So, uh, high wattage is great if you're going to, so you can keep it down, the power down. But another thing you could do these days, of course, is you can shoot at higher ISOs.
Yeah.
uh, Back in the day, you were limited by what film stock you had, and in a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
studio you'd be at 100 ISO, maybe 64. These days, you could be shooting at 400 on a full frame sensor, and it's not going to be much grain, and the contrast still
Yeah, yeah.
holds.
Yeah, the noise is getting
So
less
that's
and
another
less
way
all the
around
time,
it.
isn't it?
Yeah, but I have to say, this on a what we call a monoblock, which is basically the flash is separate to the power source. When you can separate those two out, and it's on full power, really with lots of watts per second going on, it's got a very satisfying sound to it when it pops off.
Excellent. Most
It
important
makes
thing.
all the difference. Yes. Okay, so that's the what the watch is and what that the importance of that. Um, Another thing that where you might need lots of power is when you're shooting outside, like on a day where you are, Sam. If you want flash to overpower the
Then you
sunlight
need a pretty
when
powerful
you're
flash.
outside, you need really high powered flash. It's quite surprising. Your speed light will not cut it outside on a sunny
Yeah, well,
day.
I guess you got a lot of background light, haven't you? So yeah, getting equivalent of that,
A lot to
you're gonna need
overcome
your own
there.
little sun.
You are exactly right. So, you can bring it in clothes and stuff like that. And I talk about these kinds of things in my workshop, but you still need lots of
Yeah.
power. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is the T number.
Ooh,
The T number.
never heard of
Mm.
that one. Go on.
No, T ranges from 1 to 5. And it's really what it is. It's a flash duration, how long the flash is flashing for. And it can vary. A slow T number would be something around about maybe 200th of a second. A fast T number would be something in the tens of thousands of a second, probably even beyond that with some specialized lighting units for physics. So why does that matter? Well, it to do if you're photographing something that's got movement, um, let's go to an example. There's a really famous photograph of a bullet going through an
Yeah, yeah,
apple that was
yeah. I
photographed
know
in the
the one. Yeah, yeah.
1940s. You know it. Most people know this. Now, the way that was done, it was not with obviously the shutter wasn't able to capture it at that
Okay.
speed. It was done in a darkened room, which triggered a
So,
flash.
and then are most flashes working that way? Your kind of speed is shutter speed isn't that quick, but actually the flash is, and that's kind of what that's key.
Well, that's how that
Yeah,
picture was taken, that photograph was taken. So to stop the bullet going through the apple, which is an amazing shot, that you would have you would need a shutter speed at that time would not
yeah,
been
yeah,
possible. But you would probably I don't know what it would be, Sam, something like above the tens of
yeah.
thousands
Certainly with a
to
manual
freeze a
shutter, it's just not
bullet.
possible, is it?
Not at all. So, movement matters for your two number. Now, obviously, we're not all going out there photographing apple bullets going through apples, but a common usage is photographing like movement, like ballet in a
Yeah,
studio or people jumping around. And if you haven't got a high T number, you'll notice blur on your
yeah,
flash where it's not frozen
yeah.
it. So. that's something that needs to bear in mind. And when you buy a flash, if you dig deep down, it will give you the T
Okay.
number, so you can make
And then how
evaluations
relevant
on
that
that.
presumably depends on what you're photographing.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the Godox flashes that I use have all got a good T
Yeah.
numbers. They're quite fast, so I bore that in mind. Now, there is a way around this, and speed lights, the ones that go in your camera, they have very high
Okay.
T numbers. They're really good at capturing movement. I don't know what it is, why that is, but they are. Yes. So, any questions on that, Sam? Before I move
No, I
on.
think that all kind of makes sense. So even with normal flash, you were saying you have a relatively long exposure time, but then the flash is just kind of capturing that thing quickly.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Okay, so what else can we talk about with Flash? Well, we've talked about the wattage, we've talked about the modifiers, we've talked about the tea time. Those are some of the more advanced things that you're going to think about. Um, Maybe if you're going to start using grids, which is like a honeycomb on your modifier, you really need to think about positioning of the light in a very critical way, because what a honeycomb or grid does to the light is like a crisscross arrangement, and it's a bit like this thing in front of me on my microphone, the pop filter. It actually directs light into to go. It doesn't spread out.
So
It
it
goes straight
focuses the
ahead.
beam. So instead of it spreading, you've got a
It
so presumably
focuses.
it can actually go further because you're going in a straight line rather than it spreading out.
Oh, now there's a question, Sam. That should do. Does
It
it go?
should do.
I don't
It should
know.
reach further because
May in
normally further away
theory,
you got the problem the light
yes,
spread out more. If it's not spreading out, it should
that's
remain
right.
quite powerful.
In the same way that the aperture, you get a sharper image at the smaller at the higher numbers, the smaller aperture, because beam is more focused. That gives you a great depth of field because the light is traveling
The
faster.
light is definitely not traveling
So
faster, Marcus. It's definitely all going at the
not
same
faster.
speed.
Sorry, no. But it's
Yeah,
more
yeah, yeah.
focused. The beam is more
Indeed.
focused, making it
Yeah, yeah.
appear like it's yes. So so if you're using a beauty dish, a honeycomb or grid, you need to be really careful about placing your light on the subject because the beam can be very focused. You get different size of grids. They vary by the degrees. I think it's like 20, 40, 60, if my memory serves me right. Basically, the holes get bigger. The bigger the hole, the less
Yeah, yeah.
focused the
That makes
beam.
sense.
So if you're photographing like a still life or product shot and you want the beam really narrow on like a label or on a letter or on a wine cork, I don't know, whatever, you're going to use a very narrow honeycomb, and that's got to be positioned very carefully. And really the best way of doing it is by putting a modeling light
Okay.
on, which is a little light that comes on the beam on the flash gun, and that gives you a rough idea of where the light's
That makes
hitting.
sense.
So yet again, when you're buying your lights, it's worth looking for one that's got a modeling light. They do
Oh,
the
okay.
higher
Yeah. So
end ones do
effectively, you
tend
can
to
see
have a
where the
modeling
light's going
light.
to end up. It's like a kind of very dim version of what the flash will be like. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to talk about is, I sort of mentioned it earlier, this idea of you get, I think this is terminology. A monoblock is where the light and the battery power are separate. Well, hold on, sorry, I've got it wrong. It's the other way around. The monoblock is where the light and battery are in one unit, and it makes a very heavy
Okay.
unit. And especially if you're putting that on a C stand and it's high up, I've actually seen it bend. Well, it bends the metal
Oops.
rods. So yeah, so, and it can be very dangerous if that lands on someone's head. That is not a
So
good thing to
generally
happen.
avoid those
So,
unless you've got a very sturdy studio setup, presumably.
well, what you can do, Sam, you can either, again with these Godox light, you can buy an accessory where you separate the battery and the head with a nice big thick
Yeah.
cable, and you get about 10 foot or
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more. So you can position the light just at the flash head, which is then very
Yeah.
light, away from the
Yeah.
battery.
Sounds a good plan.
Or you buy a dedicated monoblock, which are very expensive. You're looking at £2,000 to £3,000 even for a Godox one, more for a pro photo, and they're separate light and
Yeah.
head. The just while we're on that, just to finish, start wrapping up the program. The advantage of those bigger blocks, I believe, I've never experienced it myself, but I believe the advantage is it gives you a more constant color
Okay.
temperature.
Interesting.
I've being a portrait photographer primarily. I've never really worried about color
Good.
temperature too much. But if you're doing again still life product shots where you might be doing focus stacking or you might be doing layering, you really want to make sure every frame is at the right color temperature. Guys, Sam, you've gone in complete silhouette.
There we
I'm
go.
just looking at a silhouette of you. You look like Mickey Mouse. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, well, you know what I'm going to have to do now, Marcus? I'm going to have to update my guide to photography. So I was sharing with Marcus, wasn't I? Because I've just been moving house. And, you go through all that stuff in the loft, and I found it. I showed Marcus some pages, my guide to photography that I wrote for, I think, for GCSE English. Did you like the diagrams on it, Marcus? Maybe I have to share that on
Yeah, no,
LinkedIn or
that's
something.
excellent. That was A-level
No,
photography, I
no, no. That
believe.
was just
Was it not
GCSE
A-level?
English. It was
It was
like
above.
English, so you had to write about
Okay.
explain how something worked. I think. I mean, it's a long time ago now, Marcus, but I definitely didn't do A-level photography.
Well, look, as you know from this conversation we've just had, Sam, photography, lighting can get very technical, and I'm not a super technical person. You've got a physics background, you understand these things better than me. But that's why I've come up with this idea of the 6 core principles. There's really 6 sentences. I'll keep going on about this, but it's taken a lot of thought and effort to get it narrowed down to really something that everybody can
Perfect. And
understand.
quick
We'll
reminder,
be talking
Marcus,
about that in the webinar.
can you go through the address again to sign up to the webinar?
Oh, you're making me do this on purpose, Sam. It's marcusarmad.com /flash hyphen fundamentals.
Excellent. Thank you, Marcus. And if you
That'd be
notice,
that.
anytime we promote the podcast website, it's always me that say it. Because if we try and get Marcus to say it,
Yes,
it could take us all day.
I don't like it. It's too much information. But you can sign up to it there. It's free. It's going to be the 5 evenings. It's going to be 20 minutes. I'm going to get my students to take some photos as well. I'm going to work out how I'm going to do
Amazing.
that. But it's going to be a good fundamental. And that's the reason why I've called it fundamentals. It's going to be fun.
Perfect, Marcus. Sounds amazing. So get signed up to that and enjoy that. And Marcus, I'll see you next week.
See you next week,
Cheers.
Sam. Thank you.